Good morning.
Good morning, teacher.
Let's make a start. Can you see my screen, the functional skills?
Yes, please.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so today we are looking at spelling. So let's have a look at our aims and outcomes. So by the end of this session, you must be aware of different spelling of homophones, understand how prefixes work, understand how suffixes work, that should say, know how to spell words with unstressed vowels. You should not make errors that affect meaning, and you could know how to spell a selection of other common misspelled words. So what you need to know for level 2. So you are expected at level 2 to have already mastered the lower level skills. And your spelling should be accurate and include ambitious words. So not just sticking to simply spelled words, but also including some of those trickier ones. So you need, for level 2, to succeed at level 2, you need to know the correct homophones, possessive pronouns, trickier prefixes and suffixes, and words with unstressed vowels, plus errors. Any errors there are no errors that affect meaning, basically. And homophones are words that sound the same, but are spelt differently and have a different meaning. So I'm going to start by watching the video. I'll just share that with you.
More tips for spelling, root words and prefixes. What do you think of when you hear spelling? Are you fine with spelling? Or do you worry about it? Many people feel less than confident when spelling. This unit will help you to think about beginnings and endings of words to help spelling. A key thing to consider with spelling is that you must be aware of what you need to practice. There are so many little things that can go wrong that no person is ever the same when it comes to spelling. General things to think about. Tip 1. Work out what it is that you can't do. There will be spellings that you are good at. Know what these are and pat yourself on the back about them. Then look at your spellings and see what sorts of things you tend to get wrong. This is where you'll need to focus. Tip 2. Use what you do know to build on what you don't. For example, if you know the rule knock off the E to add ing, then you can use this when adding other endings. Tip 3. Work on a little bit at a time. Don't try to do too much at once. Tip 4. Practice. The more you practice, the better you will be. It is really useful to know about root words and the bits that are fixed onto them, i.e. prefixes and suffixes. Knowing some basic rules here can quickly and easily improve your spelling. Let's start with root words. Root words are words that stand alone and can have other parts added to them. Look at this example. Able. We can add the dis to the front of able to make disable, or n to make enable. Then we could add d to the end of disable to make disabled, and ing to the end of enable to make enabling. If you know about prefixes and suffixes, it becomes a lot easier to build longer, more sophisticated words. Focus on being able to spell the main word, i.e. the root word first, and then add your endings and beginnings. Look at this word, anti-disestablishmentarianism. Isn't that a scarily long word? But breaking it down into root word, suffixes and prefixes shows you just how easy it is to spell a difficult word like this. Establish is the root word. We then add the suffix ment, then the prefix dis is added, then the prefix anti is added, then the suffix arian, and then finally the suffix ism. Thinking of each of the smaller component parts makes this an easier long word to spell. So, what are these prefixes and suffixes? Prefixes. The proper name for those bits that are fixed to the beginning of the root word is prefixes. Pre means front, so these are the bits that are fixed to the front. Prefix useful tip 1. The prefixes dis or miss will only ever have one S. Disappoint, disfigure, disregard. Misread, misunderstand. Note that if the root word begins with an S, then there will of course be two S's, as in disservice and misspell. Prefix useful tip 2. Is it im, in, ill or ir at the front? If you are adding to a word beginning with an L, then add il, as in illegal and illogical. Note how there are two L's in illegal and illogical. This is because you are adding il to legal and logical. If you are adding to a word beginning with P or M, then it's im, as in impossible or immature. See how there are two M's in immature? That's because you are adding im to mature. If you are adding to a word beginning with R, then it's ir, as in irregular, irrational. Notice how there are two R's. That's because you are adding ir to regular and rational. With words beginning with the other letters, use in, such as inactive, ineffective, indecent. Now watch part 2 of this tutorial, where we will look at suffixes. More tips for
So, lots of information there. So we're going to go over some of that now. So, prefixes are letters which go in front of the root word and change the meaning of the root word. So, as we saw in the video. So you need to be able to spell accurately the root word so that when you add the prefix, you are still spelling it correctly. So knowing the meaning of prefixes will help you with your understanding of unfamiliar words as well. So from level 1, you're expected to know that ill, in, none and un all mean not, so they change the meaning of the word. And there's some examples here. So the prefix auto, which means self, and the example is automatic. So automatic means usually used for machine or often is used for a machine or something mechanical that does it itself. So an automatic washing machine, you don't have to put in effort. It does it. It washes the clothes itself. An automatic car, it changes gear itself, and so on. So automatic. We've got infra, which means beneath or below the surface, and that is added to the word structure, and we now have infrastructure. So infrastructure are the systems, and so the systems just beneath the surface that enable a society to run effectively. So the infrastructure might be transport, power supplies, and so on. So that's the word infrastructure. If you have any questions, then you can unmute yourself to ask. That's fine. So bi meaning two, we've got biathlon. So an event with two events, an athletics event. Micro meaning small. A microscope. So we use a microscope to look at small objects. Circum, that prefix means around. And our example there is circumscribe. So writing around a topic, a subject. Excuse me. and tele, meaning far or far off, and telephone. So phone meaning sounds, and tele, far, far off. So the meaning is that you can speak to someone who is far away. Hyper, over and above. Hyperactive, so over the normal activity levels, more active than a normal level. And trans, meaning across or beyond, transatlantic. So a transatlantic flight crossing the Atlantic. So there may be other examples you can think of using those prefixes. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
No.
Chaotic moment. Okay. So with these words, we're going to look at the whole word and identify the root word and the prefix, and then the meaning. Excuse me. So microbiology, what is the root word there? So remember the prefix, it goes at the beginning of the word. So the root word will be the second part of the word. So in microbiology, what is the root word?
Is it small?
Pardon?
Small?
Small.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for which of, so we'll look at that in a moment as part of the meaning. So you're right there, but which part of microbiology is our root word? So I don't want the meaning yet. So if we look back, we've got, so if we look at hyper, hyper is the prefix, hyperactive, active is the root word.
Oh, okay.
Prefix. So if we look at these words in microbiology, biology, good. So biology is our root word. And what is the prefix?
Micro.
Micro, well done. So as you mentioned already, micro meaning small. So microbiology, what do you think the meaning of that word is? So microbiology would be the study of very small living things, microorganisms. So biology is the study of living things. And microbiology is the study of small, very small parts of that. Right. Monotone. So what is our root word? Or can you tell me the prefix? Remember, the prefix goes at the beginning of the word. So what is the prefix of monotone?
Just mono.
Mono, good. So the root word would be?
Tone.
Tone, good. So monotone. So can anyone suggest what the meaning would be? Do you know what the meaning of mono is? Anybody? Does anyone know what the meaning of mono is?
No.
No, so mono means one. So monotone means just one tone. So let me just see what we've got written here. So a sound with an unchanging pitch. So if you imagine how a robot might speak, they would speak in a monotone voice. Or if you have a piece of music where there is just an instrument just playing one note all of the time, then that would be monotone. Does that make sense? So the tone refers to the sound. Any questions? Okay, so transnational. So let's start with the prefix, the beginning of the word. What's the prefix of transnational?
National.
So sorry, I've confused things there. National is the root word. Well done. And so what would our prefix be?
Trans.
Good. So trans meaning across or across, and national meaning a nation or of a nation. So let's look at the meaning. So across international boundaries. So transnational agreement would be an agreement across nations. So it isn't just applying to one nation, it would apply to many or more than one anyway. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions? Okay. So our next word is telegram. Now we're going to, this is a bit, can anyone tell me what the prefix is? So what the beginning part of the word is?
Tell.
Tele, yeah. So this is a bit trickier because the root word gram, it isn't an English word we would use, the word gram. It comes from a Latin word meaning letter. So a telegram is a message sent by telegraph. So a telegram is a letter that's sent across a distance. So if we think of telephone, so we had that on the previous page, meaning far, far off. So tele there, meaning far or far off. So a telegram is a letter that's sent somewhere far away. It's sent over a wire, isn't it? A telephone line. Okay. Any questions about that? So any questions? So sometimes in English, the root word will be derived from another language, so which obviously all have contributed to the development of English. So it could be Latin, or it could be from French, German, or another European language. So that can make it a little bit trickier. Biannual. So what's the start of the word? What's the prefix that's been added?
It can be only.
Yeah, so by, we say by. Yeah, bi at the beginning to change the meaning of annual. So what would the root word annual mean? What does that mean? So if we say something is an annual event, what does that mean? How often does it happen?
A year.
Once a year, good. So biannual, the word bi meaning two, means that it happens twice a year. Okay. So circumvent. So again, this is a bit tricky because the word vent in this word isn't what we would imagine at a first glance. So let's just have a look at this one. So the root word vent and the prefix circum. So so again, we're borrowing from Latin here, or the Latin word that has been used to develop in English. So sorry, just get rid of that. So it's the meaning is to find a way around something. So circum, meaning around, that's our prefix. And it's using the Latin there, vent, which is from a word meaning come. So it's to come around something. So again, that's a bit tricky like telegram, because the root word isn't a word we would normally be writing in English. But it's just showing you how the words are made with the prefix and the root word. So it's another example of that. Any questions about that? Okay. Oh, so superimpose. So what's our root word? Or sorry, what's the root word? Superimpose.
Is a super.
So that's the prefix.
Prefix. So is impose.
Impose, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So impose is our root word. Impose, to put upon someone. Or to put upon something, impose something. So if you think of the word impose, if the boss imposed a new rule on the staff, he's putting it upon them. And super, meaning on top of. So to lay one thing on top of another. So you may hear this used for photographs, for example, that a picture of someone has been superimposed on top of another image. So it's that layering. Okay. And our last one, autopilot. So what's our root word? Or can anyone tell me what the prefix is?
Prefix is auto.
So the prefix is auto, good, meaning itself.
Yeah.
And the root word therefore would be so if auto is the prefix, the root word is
Pilot.
pilot. Good.
Pilot.
So pilot, so someone who's flying the plane or another type of vehicle. Autopilot. So it's a device to automatically steer a ship or aircraft. So again, that meaning of auto, it's being done by itself. Okay. So any questions about those prefixes? Okay. So we're going to watch another video. Just bear with me while I get that started.
More tips for spelling, suffixes and plural words. In this unit, we will look at suffixes and plural words. Root words are words that stand alone and can have other parts added to them. The proper name for those bits that are fixed to the end of the root word is suffixes. Suffix useful tip 1. Never use ley on the end of everyday words. Ley means a clearing in a wood and will only be used for place names such as Barnsley, Crawley, Otley, Chorley. This can help you if you get confused with where the letter E goes in words like sincerely or separately. Remember, you are adding ly to sincere and separate. Shun endings. Is it tion, sion or cian? Generally, if a word has a sh sound, as in action, then use tion. If a word has a zh sound, as in vision, then use sion. Job-related shun words are cian, for example, musician, electrician, beautician. Full only has one L. When used as a suffix, full will only have one L, as in cheerful, faithful, grateful. The second L is added if you add ly as well, so the word becomes cheerfully, faithfully, gratefully. Add in consonant suffixes. A consonant suffix is an ending which starts with a consonant. There's a clue in the name. Some very common examples are ly, ful, ness, ment, less. These suffixes start with the consonants L in ly, F in full, N in s, M in ment, and L in less. When you add these to a root word, then don't change the root word. See here how we have done nothing to the root word care. Consonant suffixes just add to the root word. You don't need to do anything. Add in vowel suffixes. As is suggested in the name, a vowel suffix is one which starts with a vowel. The 5 vowels are A, E, I, O and U. Some common examples are ing, ed and er. When you add these to a root word, then something usually needs to happen. Let's go back to the root word care. Care plus ing equals caring. We have knocked off the e from the root word to add ing. We do the same with cared and carer, as we knock off the e to add ed or er. Sometimes things can get really tricky with vowel suffixes. Look at the word tap. What are you going to do when you want to add ing? Is it tapping or taping? Tapping and taping aren't the same thing at all. Taping would mean that we have knocked off the e to add ing from the root word tape. Tapping means we have added ing to tap and doubled the p. On short words with one final consonant, you should double that letter when adding the vowel suffix. Tapped, tapper, tapping, not taped, taper, taping. These mean something totally different. Plural words. Know how to make plurals. Plural means more than one, so the plural of cat is cats. The usual way to make a plural is to add s. On words that end ch, sh, double s, s or x, then we add es, as in churches, washers, glasses, circuses and boxes. On words that end with f or fe, change the ffe to a v and add es. Thief becomes thieves, life becomes lives. For words that end vowel plus y, then add s, as in boys, trays, monkeys. For words that end consonant plus y, knock off the y and add ies, as in cherry to cherries, jelly to jellies. So, to help your spelling, try out these different tips to work out how you are going to deal with those tricky words that you find difficult. And remember, practice makes perfect.
Okay, any questions about the video? Okay. So, as we've seen, suffixes are letters which come at the end of a word and change the meaning of the word. So you should, at level 2, you're already expected to know the level 1 words, how to spell words with the suffixes al, ally, ship, ness, bull, able, and tion and sion. At level 2, you need to be able to accurately spell more complex words. So using suffixes, including these ICAL, IOUS, CIAN, ANCE and ENCE. So let's have a look at this text, and I want you to spot any errors in the suffixes, so the word endings. So I'll read it through. You can follow on your screen. And then I'd like you to tell me where the word endings need to be corrected. Okay, so clean communities can only happen when individuals make a conscious choice to do the right thing and put their rubbish in the bin or take it with them where there is no bin available. The appearance of our parks and public places plays a big part of what makes our region a wonderful place to live, and we all have an influence on them. So, why not register for a clean-up in your local area? I urge you to become part of the solution by getting involved in making your community a better, cleaner, healthier place. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to look at it, and then you can tell me where we need to make corrections. Okay, so can you spot any word endings that need to be corrected? Any suffixes that we need to correct?
Happen.
Pardon?
Happen.
So what do you think that should be?
ED.
So just hold on, let me just... so this word here, happen.
Yep.
So you think it should be happened? I'm not... So where... So you think it should be happened?
Happened.
That would change the tense. So we're not... So in this exercise, we're not looking to add an ending. We're looking at the endings where they're spelt incorrectly. So that is correct, that one, happen. That word is correct. Clean communities can only happen. Okay, because it's in the present tense. But we're looking for words where the ending is incorrect. So we're not adding a new ending like you've suggested there, ED. We're changing the spelling of what's already there. So I'll show you the first one as an example. So this word here, conscious, the ending is incorrect. Does anyone want to suggest how we should spell the ending of that word, conscious? Okay, so it should be spelled like this. Conscious. So
Yes.
pardon?
Conscious.
Conscious, yes. So the word sounds correct, conscious, but that spelling, the S-I-E-U-S, is incorrect. So that's what we're looking for. So any other words where we need to change the spelling? So have a look in the middle paragraph. Okay, so I'm going to underline. This one is the ending, the suffix is incorrect. How should this word be spelled? I'll type the beginning, the root word. And how should we be writing that ending? So appearance. How should we be writing that? Spelling it. So
I think it's the same appearance.
so it's the word is correct, appearance, but the spelling is incorrect. So if we just go
You
back.
can put one P. Is there one P?
No, that part
No.
is correct. I'm just going to highlight to you the part that I mean. So the root word appear is correct. We're looking at the word endings, the suffixes. So if I get rid of this line and put a new one in, it will let me. So we're looking at this word ending. So appear is correct. It's turned it yellow, you can't really see it.
I think you can put A.
So
not E. A.
yes, good. So that's what we're looking for. The suffix is spelled incorrectly. Good. So let's go back and I'll type that in.
Yeah, you can put A as like
Yeah.
A. Yeah.
So it's just the spelling that we're changing of the suffix. So appearance, that's the correct spelling. Okay, so in that paragraph there, in the same paragraph, can you spot another word where the ending, the suffix, has been spelt incorrectly? Okay, I'm going to show you the word and I want you to tell me what the spelling should be. So it's the word influence and it's the ending we're changing. So can anyone tell me what it should be?
E-N.
Yeah, so I've not got much space here. Let's go here. Okay, so it should be influence. And the final paragraph, we're all correct there. Okay. So it's those suffixes we need to be really careful of with the spelling. Pardon? Did someone have a question? No? Okay. So spelling words with unstressed vowels. So these can be tricky to spell because we can't hear all of the letters when we say them out loud. So we've got some examples here. Difference. So that first E is not stressed when we speak. So difference, we don't generally say difference. You wouldn't hear that. Business, we've got that I that's unstressed. And jewellery. Or see, jewellery is a tricky one. It's written here. I would say with jewellery, it would depend on your accent. So you might hear the E. Some people might say it, the third E, but often you would not. You would hear it as jewellery rather than jewellery. But the point is that in some words where all of the letters are not heard when they're spoken, it can make the spelling tricky. And as it says here, it can be helpful to make a list of words that you find tricky. So if you just have a small notebook or use the notes function on your phone or iPad, then you can just make a list of those words you find tricky. And when you've got a few spare minutes, just have a look at them. Just write them a few times to remind yourself. And that's the best way, really, to get those spelling patterns fixed in your mind. So particularly, these words can often be spelled incorrectly. Words with endings or suffixes, A-R-Y, E-R-Y, O-R-Y, often mixed up, or R-E-N-C-E, as we saw, sometimes an A is put there in error. So R-A is used in error. And also with E-N or E-R patterns. So again, I would stress practice. If you know there's words that you often spell incorrectly, make a note of them, practice them. So some of these words, so these words have unstressed sounds in them. So what is the unstressed sound? That is, and the point of this exercise is to make you aware of where there might be a spelling error by missing out that unstressed sound. So making you aware of them so that you get the spelling correct. So abandoned. So if we look at that first one together. So abandoned, we don't hear that E when we say it out loud, abandoned. Okay, so miserable, which letter is not stressed? Miserable. So for that one, we're looking at the E, because we don't say miserable, we just say miserable. So you need to be aware that there's an E there and not forget about it when you're spelling, when you're writing. So difference, that first E, difference. So you need to make sure you remember that E. And I'd suggest if there's any of these words that you already know that you find particularly tricky to spell, that just make a note of them right away. Make a note of them now while I'm talking through them. Factory. So we don't use, we don't say factory, we say factory. So that O is the one you need to remember. Make sure you don't miss it when you're writing the word. General. So the E, the second E, general. And deafening. Again, this would be dependent on the person's accent. You do hear people say deafening, but other people may say deafening. So it would be unstressed with some accents. You just need to remember that second E needs to be there when you spell it. So abominable, we don't say abominable. So that I needs to be there when you're spelling it. Dictionary. So the end of the word, excuse me, that it's dictionary. Although we don't say it like that, that is how it is spelt. Voluntary, again, that ARY ending, need to be making sure that we don't forget that A. Frightening, this is one of those words you might hear all of them stressed depending on the accent, but the one to be careful of is that E. Frightening, frightening. Desperate. So the E in the middle, desperate. We don't say it like that, but you need to make sure that you have got it, that you've remembered that when you're spelling, and the same with widening. You may hear that from some people, widening, but again, it's just to make sure that you're aware that particular words are often misspelt because one of the sounds is unstressed when we say it out loud. So being aware of that and making sure that you remember those unstressed sounds when you're spelling. If there's any that you find particularly tricky, add them to your list of words that you need to practice. Oh, excuse me, thought the phone was on silent, apologies. So other spelling issues, these are common common areas where people may make errors. So there's a lot of examples here to take in. You can watch this recording again, so you can go through and focus on this page or this slide for as long as you need to, whether that's copying the words down to help fix them in your mind, or whether it is taking a picture of it so you can have a look at it whenever you want to remind yourself. But just to be aware, if you log into Moodle, the online learning platform, then you can look at these slides again. Because I appreciate there's a lot to take in there on that slide. So other spelling issues, so silent letters. English, there are all sorts of idiosyncrasies, lots of little examples that don't follow any other rules. And we just have to learn those spellings. So we've got those silent letters. So not, so like crumb and lamb ending in a B, where we wouldn't think there would be one. And that silent H, our, honest, having an N at the end, silent N, autumn, condemn. A silent P to start a word, psychology, pneumonia. Silent S, so often after an I, so island, debris. A U, so the U is there in the spelling, but we don't hear it. Guide, guitar, and the W, sword, answer. Okay, so it's just a case of learning the spelling of those words. EI or IE. There used to be a mnemonic for this and a little rhyme to remind yourself, but it's actually false because there is no reliable rule. There's too many exceptions. So words with EI or IE in, you just need to learn how to spell them. So just practice. And we've got some examples there: deceit, siege, conceive, relieve. So the sound is the same, but the spelling is different, and there's no clear rule for us to remember. We've just got to learn them. Other examples, we've got that GH in a word. Sometimes it's silent, so such as in the word though or thought, but sometimes it's pronounced FF. I'm going to just, just look at these examples. So we've got silent there at the bottom, thigh, although, but then we have got examples where it is pronounced and we can hear it: cough, tough, laugh. Okay, so any questions about those spelling issues? It is tricky because there's so many exceptions to rules and so on, but it's just a case of learning them, and if there is a word that you struggle with, make a note of it. Just have a look at it whenever you've got a few spare minutes. You'll probably have a more than one, and just be aware of that. Okay. So again, there's a lot of information to take in there. I'm not going to just read through it all. So I'll just give you a moment to have a look at those. If there are any of those commonly misspelled words that you misspell, or it might even be all of them at the moment, it may be that you need to learn them all. Just make a note of them. And as I mentioned, just practice. So you've got a notebook, and if you've got a few spare minutes, just have a look at them, read them, practice writing them. Useful maybe if you have a notes function on your phone, put them in there, and then if you're waiting for someone or on the bus or the tram or whatever, you can just have a quick look. The more you look at them, the more you practice writing them, that's going to help them to stick in your mind so that you are able to spell them correctly consistently. Again, with this slide, it's a lot to take in there. Go back and have another look at it, log into Moodle. You can definitely watch a recording, so you can fast forward to this slide, or I think the slides themselves are there for you to look at as well. Okay, any questions about those spellings? Okay. Okay, so we're just going to do our quiz now before we finish. So which one of these is the correct spelling of hyperactive? So anyone suggest an answer? Which one is correct? Good, D. Well done. So it's hyperactive. Well done, Janet. So Janet's just answering in the chat. Which is the correct spelling of infrastructure? Infrastructure. Think about how it's said. Infrastructure. Good, that's A. Well done, Janet. Oh. And untypical. So anyone have a go at that one? Just unmute yourself, or you can write it in the chat.
And be D.
D, well done, thank you. It is D, untypical. So we've got that un prefix and then the spelling typical. Well done. Which is the correct spelling of abominable? Remember, it's got an unstressed sound in there, abominable. That's a tricky one, this one. Sorry. So for this one, it's tricky. It's D, abominable. So that's not how we say it in reality. The correct excuse me, the correct pronunciation would be abominable, abominable. But if we stress all of the sounds, it is abominable. So it's D. Okay, so that's a tricky one we need to practice. Okay, so well done. Thank you to those who've contributed. Thank you for coming to the session this morning. As I've already mentioned, you can go and log into Moodle to look at the recording of this session or to look at the slides again, and particularly for those slides with a lot of information about correct spellings. There's also some exercises, some exercises you can do there so you can practice what we've learned today. So does anyone have any questions before we finish? Okay, thank you everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you too. Likewise.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, teacher. Have a good
You're welcome. Bye
Sunday.
now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.